Okay, you guys, my big sister came over so I could braid her hair. The plot twist is she has an undercut. Can I grip it? Of course I can. So I'm going to talk you guys through how I made this happen. Sorry the camera angle isn't the very best, but I was focused on getting this hair in her head, and it was intense, you guys. So basically, I started with an anchor braid. I prefer not to use like rubber bands and things unless it's absolutely necessary. And I was able to make this work with an anchor braid. An anchor braid is just where you do a very small, like micro braid, because the key to braiding short hair, as I've told you before, is the smaller the braid, the better. She did not want a head full of micro braids, and so I used anchor braids where her hair was very short to be able to create the larger box braid. I did still feed it in, and I'm not gonna lie to you guys, your grip game still has to be very strong even when you're going to use this method. So you see I have the smaller anchor braid right there, and we're actually doing a boho bob look for her. And the other thing that made this very challenging is her hair is silky soft. I'm talking about newborn baby silky soft. But you know me, where there is a will, there is a way. And I was like, nope. She didn't come over here for no reason. My big sis needed done, and I'm going to make sure it gets done. So at some points, I'm just gripping hopes, dreams, thoughts, and imaginations of hair that would be there. And we're getting it done. So I try to be really precise and just really careful. I do give each braid a slight little tug. You see, I don't have her holding her finger at the top, making sure it stays in, because at the end of the day, I need to make sure it's going to stay in even if she's not holding it down. So I don't ask her to do, any of that. I'm just like, let me just go through and braid it. This back bottom row and then this side that you can see of her hair were actually the hardest parts to do. But it was, oh my gosh, you guys. I was like, what is actually happening? So I'm tying off the braid at the end. And so that's how I'm going to secure it. And I do make sure it's just kind of even. And I basically tied it off in conjunction with the way that she wanted the how far she wanted the bob to fall. And I'm going to roll the hair with rollers at the end. So yeah, on to row number 2. You guys know I just like to let y'all kind of braid with me, and so that's what we're doing here. But it was short. If there were any tips, I would say it would be to definitely create that anchor braid. I did use a braid pomade like gel product to be able to just, I guess you could say, give more structure to the hair, because it was like just really soft and silky. But you don't want to use too much, because if you use too much product, it's just gonna really make the braids slip off. So I would say using about a less than a quarter of a dime size amount. If you split a dime into 4 little pieces, I would say use a little less than one of those pieces as far as the amount. Really just when you're separating the parts to just make them like crisp and clean, that pomade that you use to create that part, if you just smooth a little bit of that down into the hair, that's basically going to be the amount that you would want to use to make it, give the hair that additional structure. So I would say these braids are like medium size if I was to try to give these braids an actual size. But yeah, so let's continue to braid. I'm going to show you guys different angles of me going through getting this done. I am doing the brick layered pattern, so you'll see where I'm just intentional about making those parts in the middle of where that braid would be, and I'm creating that anchor braid. When you guys do the anchor braid, it's not going to look neat and fancy. You'll see there's pieces of hair that's sticking out. That's okay. This is just the anchor braid. So you're covering all that up anyway. And a way to make sure that the anchor braid isn't showing under the braid is just to make sure you're using the proper amount of hair to cover that anchor braid up. I did not do knotless in the back or anywhere where I created an anchor braid. So literally the center row at the top of her hair and the row just next to the center row, I did do knotless braids just to give her that look. But the rest of the braids are knotted style braids, and that's because I needed to create that anchor braid and then I needed to cover up that anchor braid. So you're not going to be able to offer your potential client, or in my case, your big sister, knotless braids as an option if you're going to need to do a style with an anchor braid. But it still looks really neat and nice. And even when I do a style and use knotted braids, I don't make the knot really thick and large. So it's still a really nice, clean and crisp look for me. She should not have any issues with this hair slipping. Times when I've done my own hair and I've had to make a little anchor braid, it doesn't slip. And it's interesting because even when I did the anchor braid, I did a feed in method. I didn't do knotless, but I did feed in the hair. And I think that's genuinely even just in part like course of habit at this point because of doing knotless braids so often. But also when you commit to feeding in the hair, even when you're doing a knotted braid, it just helps create there to be less tension on the hair from the root, even if you are using a knot. So that's something that I also do. I always try to think about how to create less tension on the hair, especially when I'm braiding hair in areas or just doing my hair in general that, you know, is like short. So I'm just giving you guys a look once I'm getting to the lengthier parts of her hair, how it kind of is. And, you know, I'm just going through making these rows. Here, I'm doing the small knot. Again, I didn't do the knotless until I kind of got up to the top. I'm mostly showing you guys the back of me braiding her hair because she didn't say I couldn't put her face in the video, but I was just like, for why? So you're going to see her hair when it's done. We'll get to that in just a second, but I started feeding in the boho hair on the third row, and that has to do with the density that she wanted for her hair and just to keep it from getting like as tangly. Also, one of the things that I do to keep the boho hair from getting tangled is I use the black got to be gel, and I put just a little bit on each strand. I'm gonna do a video for you guys soon, probably like a short, just showing you guys how I keep up and maintain my boho hair to keep it from getting all like tangled and stuff. I've had my braids in for 2 going on 3 weeks now, and I'm not experiencing issues with like crazy tangledness and all the type of stuff. And so using that got to be gel is how I keep that from happening. So like I said, I will show you guys just kind of like my maintenance routine, or really the install routine, because after that, I'm not doing a lot of maintenance. I feel like braids are supposed to be a maintenance-free type of hairstyle, so that's what it is. I'm not revisiting the moment over and over again, trying to keep it up and maintain it. So yeah, so anyways, let's just keep braiding. I hope you guys enjoy the video. If there's any questions you have about the installation, gripping short hair, or, you know, any of the things, just let me know and I'll try my best to answer them in the comments. I'm sorry, sometimes trying to just get the angle of putting in the braids is kind of hard. So I definitely promise I'm going to try to get better and better over time of just showing you guys the angles of what I'm doing. And I don't know if you guys even noticed, but I feed in hair from underneath. I know it's hard to see it in these videos, and especially in this moment while you're looking at my hand right here, but I feed in my hair underneath. So I'll try to capture a video with an angle of showing just me feeding in the actual hair so you guys can see how I do that, because I actually braid underneath. It is a course of habit. I could braid on top, I guess, over braid, but I don't know. It's just genuinely a course of habit at this point for me to braid underneath. So you can see right there, I start with it on top, and then I'm pulling this boho piece out because I try to start feeding in the boho a little earlier when I get to the top of the head. And then also another thing that I will say, I try to stagger the boho just to give a different variation of the fullness and how the hair looks, making sure it looks fluffy and filled in, as opposed to feeding the hair in at the exact moment, the same exact moment with every braid. I hope the things that I'm saying are making sense. If they're not, let me know in the comments so I could just try to explain things in a different way. I went ahead and I started to put rollers in the hair. I honestly don't know why I did this. I think I was just excited and I wanted to see how it was going to look, how it was going to start turning out. So you don't have to start rolling the hair as you're going. It actually probably slowed me down just a little bit. Overall, this style took me 7 hours to do. The reason, y'all, I would say regular length hair, this style would take me 4 to 5 hours. The reason that this took me 7 hours was genuinely just because her hair was short and trying to get the braids in. There were a couple parts, especially in the back, where it was like, when I went to create the anchor braid, it would slip. And so I have to put it in again, and it would slip and I have to put it in again. And so I just wanted to make sure it was really secure because she wants to be able to wear her hair for like a month. And so I was just, like I said, I would do those little tugs to see, is this going to slip out? Is it going to slide at all? And if it did, I would just redo the whole braid. This is the finished look. And yeah, she specifically wanted braids all over. She could have just smoothed down the short hair, but she didn't want to. So I said, let's do it.